Welcome to Lesson 7 of Apache Mastery, the one where we finally tame mod-rewrite. It has a reputation for being cryptic, but the truth is every rewrite rule you'll ever read is built from the same 4 pieces: rewrite engine to switch it on, RewriteRule for the pattern and substitution, RewriteCond for conditions, and flags to fine-tune behavior. Pattern goes in, new URL comes out. Once you see that skeleton, the mystery just disappears. So here's the roadmap. We start with rewrite engine, the master switch that, if you forget it, silently kills every rule below with no error message at all. Then RewriteRule, the workhorse, pattern in, substitution out. Then RewriteCond, your if statements that gate a rule on things like the host or whether a file exists. And finally, flags, small bracketed modifiers like L, R301, or NC that change how a rule behaves. 4 pieces. That's the whole language. Now let's zoom in on RewriteRule itself, because this one line is the skeleton you'll see everywhere. Look at it left to right. The directive, RewriteRule, just the keyword that starts things off. Then the pattern, a regex matched against the incoming URL, with parentheses capturing whatever you want to reuse. Then the substitution, the new URL, where $1 pulls in that first capture. And finally, the flags in brackets. Here, redirect with a 301 and stop processing. Directive, pattern, substitution, flags. 4 slots, every single time. So let's tackle the second slot, the pattern. It's regex, and yes, regex has a reputation, but here's the good news. For almost everything you'll meet in Apache, just 6 tokens carry the load. Caret anchors the start, $ anchors the end. A dot matches any single character, and star means 0 or more of whatever came before. Parentheses capture a piece for reuse as $1, $2. And square brackets define a character class like lowercase letters or digits. Learn these 6, and production rewrites stop looking like noise. Now, sometimes you don't want a rule to fire on every request. You want it gated by a condition. That's RewriteCond, the if statement of mod-rewrite. It sits directly above the rule it guards and tests something about the request. Is HTTPS off? Does this file not exist? Is the user agent a known bad bot? 3 patterns cover most real-world use: forcing HTTPS, the classic WordPress front controller routing, and blocking bots with a 403. Stack multiple cons, and they're ANDed together by default. Add the OR flag when you need either-or logic. That brings us to the 4th and final piece of our skeleton, the flags. The docs list over 30, but honestly, 6 will carry you through almost every rewrite you'll ever write or read. L stops processing. R301 and R302 trigger permanent or temporary redirects. NC makes the match case insensitive. QSA preserves the original query string. F returns a 403, and P proxies to a backend. Combine them with commas, like R301 LNC, and remember, when you're reading someone else's rule, glance at the flags first. That's where the intent lives. Now let's put all 4 parts to work. These 3 patterns show up in nearly every production Apache config you'll ever touch. Pattern 1 forces HTTPS. The condition checks if HTTPS is off. The rule rewrites everything to the secure version, and R301 del makes it permanent and final. Pattern 2 is the famous WordPress 5-liner. 2 conditions saying, only if this isn't a real file or directory, then route everything to index.php. Pattern 3 is the post-migration redirect. No condition needed. Just capture the old path and send it to the new one with a 301. Same skeleton every time. Optional condition, rule, flags. Read the flags first, and these stop being magic. Before you debug a single rewrite, 3 principles will save you hours. First, mod-rewrite runs before Apache decides what file to serve. That's exactly why the file exists. Check works as a condition, because nothing's been resolved yet. Second, Flags compose like a recipe. F exits immediately, L finishes the current rule, then stops, R301 without L keeps going. And third, conditions are, and by default. If you want OR, you have to say so explicitly on the first one, or your rule silently never fires. With those principles in hand, here's your payoff. 7 recipes that cover most of what you'll ever write. Notice how every single one decomposes into the same skeleton we've been using. An optional condition, a pattern, a substitution, and flags. Force, HTTPS, canonical host names, WordPress front controller, blocking bots or IPs, trimming trailing slashes. They all read cleanly now. Print this slide, adjust the host names to your site, and you've got a production toolkit. Recipes are nice, but skill comes from your fingers, so 3 short drills, each isolating one muscle. First, force HTTPS on a VOST, the rewrite every site eventually needs, and a clean test of pattern, substitution, and the R equals 301L flag combo. Second, build WordPress-style routing, where the 2 negative conditions, not a file, not a directory, do the real thinking. And third, deliberately break a working rewrite, then debug it with log-level trace, because in production, the question is almost never, how do I write this? It's, why isn't it firing? And once you start debugging in the wild, you'll see the same 5 mistakes again and again. These account for roughly 90% of broken rewrites. Forgetting rewrite engine on, so the module sits there loaded but silent, leaving a leading slash in an .htaccess pattern, which never matches because Apache already stripped it. Stacking RewriteCons expecting OR when the default is AND. Omitting the L flag, so every rule cascades into the next on the rewritten URL. And writing R301 without L, leaving processing to continue past the redirect. Recognize the symptom. The fix is mechanical. And that's mod.rewrite. No longer cryptic, just 4 predictable parts you can read at a glance. Directive, pattern, substitution, flags. You've got the regex tokens that cover most real-world matching conditional logic through RewriteCond, and the 5 flags you'll actually reach for. Next lesson, we shift from rewrite rules to the bigger picture. Apache's module system itself, how to enable and disable them, and the 10 you'll want on every install. See you in Lesson 8.